Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, many different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're one of the most well-known and well-respected names in the Swedish craft beer scene, and they're also a very solid all-round brewery. Back in the day, they were known for their fruity sours and their big imperial stouts, but in more recent times they've been kind of diversifying a lot and have become very, very well rounded. But the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that I haven't had too many examples of from this brewery, and it's in a beer category as well that we really need to explore a little bit more from these guys. As I say, I just haven't seen too many of them. But one of their latest releases through Shelta Lager here in Sweden as well. Let's crack on and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So for this review, we are going to head up toward Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get that Gothenburg catchphrase in when we review Gothenburg beers. We're going to go out to the east of the city, to Landvetter, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Dugges Bryggeri. So this particular beer is called Shelta Lager. It comes in at 5% ABV, and this one is a Pilsner brewed in the northern German style. So yeah, brewed as a collaboration with the Shelta sports clothing store in Gothenburg as part of their Spotlight series. They quite often do Spotlight beers to highlight local businesses and things. I think they do one or two of those a year, if I remember correctly. But yeah, this beer was released as part of the Lokalt och Småskaligt assortment through Shelta Lager here in Sweden for May of 2023. But I think originally they brewed this one back in 2022, and this is a kind of re-release. So yeah, let's do this. As always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Dugges Bryggeri before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual links and stuff down there as well, the usual social media. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go into the homepage, use the search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like. If I have reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Swedish playlist along with many other things, and there are of course playlists there from many different countries as well. But yeah, let's do this. Let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Dugges Bryggeri once again. So, Dugges Bryggeri, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Landvetter on the outskirts of Gothenburg, Göteborg, up on the Swedish west coast, very close to Gothenburg Airport. And the brewery was established back in 2005 in Mölndal to the south of the city by Mikael Engström Dugge, whom of course it takes its name from. But a few years prior to this, Mikael had met an Englishman who was selling second-hand breweries, and this got him thinking about brewing his own beer. So he studied the Swedish alcohol laws, he went around and visited the other craft breweries that existed in the country at the time, which wasn't that many. I think back then it would have only really been the likes of Nerke, Nynäs and maybe Niels Oskar that were kind of doing anything at that time. But then he started buying up equipment to put together his own brewery, and all of this effort culminated with the opening of the first facility in Mölndal back in 2005. By 2009 though, the brewery had outgrown their original facility. They'd been developing the recipes and getting their beer out there, and so they made the decision to move, and they found the premises in Landvetter, which they moved into in 2010. So the older brewery had a capacity of 1,500 hectolitres of beer per year at maximum, which is of course 150,000 litres, but the new brewery started with a capacity of 800,000 litres or 8,000 hectolitres per year, and this has been more than doubled in recent years. But over the years, the brewery became, in the first years, the brewery became known for their fruit sours. Of course, one of the classic beers from these guys would be the Tropic Thunder, a collaboration brew with Stillwater Artisanal, but also for their big imperial stouts. The coffee stouts for me have always been a highlight from Dugges Bryggeri, and you'll see one of those again on the channel fairly shortly. But they brewed a number of imperial stouts for Omnipoyo as well, who were of course gypsy breweries, a gypsy brewer for a very long time. So yeah, Dugges Bryggeri became very good in the sour beer category. and the Imperial Stout category, but in more recent times they've been investing more and more in their barrel program and also developing a lot of different series of beers. For a while they had a few different series, the Crush and the Fresh, which were New England IPAs, the Bite, which were the West Coast IPAs. There was a series of wheat beers in there, but they've got the Mega and Future series as well. So the Future series are the barrel-aged ones, and the Megas are just, you know, the Beast 15% Imperial Stouts. But yeah, the other interesting thing about these guys is that they are co-owners of the two Brewers beer bars in Gothenburg, which are owned along with All In Brewing and I believe Electric Nurse as well, who are run by Mikael's daughter and son-in-law, John and Ida. Check out some of their beers. But yeah, the original Brewers beer bar is on Tredje Långgatan, and that's where I filmed my Out and About video a few years back. So yeah, definitely go and check those out if you get the chance. But that's everything I can really tell you, I believe, about Dugges Bryggeri. I would tell you how many beers they've produced, but it's very difficult to actually get a number of that. I'll need to contact Mikael Dugge and ask him, actually, because the number that's on Untappd is definitely not right. It's far, far too low. But yeah, that's everything you need to know about these guys. So if you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Untappd page to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that they've done. But I have to say, Dugges have upgraded their website in recent times, and they've now got a really good kind of profile of each beer that they do, which is nice. So yeah, let's do this. I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one then before we open it up. You can see that this is a half-litre can, which I've noticed that Dugges have been using quite a lot recently. Nice to see. But yeah, really nicely presented, like a proper old school presentation on this one. Plain silver top on the can there. If memory serves me correctly, I paid 30 or 35 Swedish kronor for this one. But yeah, it's roughly about 10 kroners to the euro, so it's like €3 or something for this can, about £2.70, something like that, and maybe about $3.30, $3.50 American, something like that. But yeah, 5% Northern German style Pilsner, this one. Remember, the Pilsner as a style originates from the city of Pilsen in the Czech Republic. It was brewed originally by a Bavarian brewer who went and settled in the town. He was a bit of an arsehole and got thrown out of the town 2 years later, but that beer was, of course, what became a Pilsner Urquell. Which has gone across the Czech Republic and into Germany. For me, generally speaking, the Czech Pilsners are a little bit more kind of bready and yeasty, whereas the German ones are a bit kind of cleaner but also drier and crisper. Actually, for me, that would be the main difference. And the hops, of course, have slightly different characters. German hops are a little bit smoother and brighter, whereas Czech hops tend to be a little bit more kind of spicy and things. But yeah, the Shelta Lager, brewed in 2022 as part of the Dugges Spotlight series, where they highlight local companies, and Shelta is a local sporting goods dealer, I guess you could say, in Gothenburg. But yeah, we'll get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. It's a very warm day outside, so a nice Pilsner would be very, very welcome, I have to say. So let's do this. So, yeah. So, anyway, you can see this beer is poured pretty much as you would expect from any Pilsner. The head, before it disappears, lovely kind of bright, very clean white head on this one. It's a little bit bumpy toward the top, but very kind of foamy. Some medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid, and some really fluffy ones kind of in the middle there, but it looks very, very nice. In terms of the colour of this beer, it's pretty much as you would expect. Pilsners can vary a little bit, to be honest with you, but this one's got a lovely kind of bright, hazy golden straw yellow colour to it. Very, very nice. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does look pretty damn nice, I have to say. A little bit of natural haze, as we said. I think this beer is all barley malt. Yeah, yeah, all barley malt, no oats or anything like that. One of my favourite lagers I had in recent times was the Oat Lager from New Barnes Brewery in Edinburgh. They were absolutely great. But yeah, this one just has that lovely little bit of natural haze to it, which I wondered if it could be from a little bit of oat or something like that in there. The appearance of this one really is very much like the New Barnes Oat Lager that I had on the channel a wee while back. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together is very, very nice in that sense. But nothing overly surprising about this one. It does have that lovely little bit of natural haze to it, which I'm looking forward to, but that could also be a degree due to the condensation on the glass. But let's have a wee look at the aroma of this one then, and see what it's all about. We don't really need to see anything more about the appearance of this beer. So, aroma-wise, for me, yeah, it's pretty much exactly as you would expect, but it smells very authentic. What I always look for in these craft brewed German style Pilsners and Lagers and stuff, I look for the authenticity. I want these beers to be kind of as close to the ones you would get in Germany or Czech or Austria or whatever. That's what I like from these traditional lager beers, and I can tell you straight away this one really does smell very, very authentic. But you know, Dugges are a quality brewery, they're well respected for a reason, and that stands up based on my experiences with them. And like I say, this is a style we've not had too many of. I'd love to see more lagers actually from Dugges, and to be honest, I'd maybe go as far as saying that's the one thing that Dugges haven't really explored that much compared to other things throughout their history. But this is very, very authentic, and you can smell that it is German in character. So let's just break down this aroma and describe that a wee bit more in depth. So the backbone of this beer, you have a really, really nice little bit of kind of fresh white bready bread crust. That is absolutely the backbone of this beer. There's a little touch of woodiness in there, which is great. So I really enjoy the little kind of woodiness that you get further forward on the nose. Then you've got a wee bit of kind of Jacob's cream cracker type quality coming out of this one, which I think is really nice too. So yeah, lovely little bit of Jacob's cream cracker, as I said. Then obviously you have all of these little bready components sitting above that. So for me, there's maybe a teeny little bit of a slightly wholemeal brown bready character to this one. This beer does have a very, very slight graininess to it, but then above that you're getting the fluffy white bready notes coming out of it, and the fluffy white bread is very, very fresh actually. There's something very familiar about this, about the malt in this one as well. I do wonder if it is actually German malt they're using, or it will be. Some of it will be, but I wonder if the base malt is German, because it smells actually that this one, it smells like Viking lager malt. I could be wrong, of course, but there's just something setting off my contextual cues in the memory just from the aroma of this beer. So yeah, I think there could be a little bit of Viking lager malt in this one, but it's the bready character you get. It's lovely and fluffy and slightly dry in a sense. You've definitely got a little bit of that Pilsner malty character as well. Yeah, you've got a little bit of that kind of Pilsner malty character in this one. And you can smell the dryness out of that, but in the middle of the nose there's certainly a degree of sweetness. Yeah, you've certainly got a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuity sweetness in there, a little touch grainy of course. And yeah, just that crackery, woody, that sort of crackery, woody, dry undertone to it as well, which is kind of nice. But in terms of the Pilsner style, like I said earlier, the German Pilsners for me tend to be a little bit more dry and crisp, and this one certainly gives that impression. With the Czech ones, you will get a lot more kind of, the breadiness would be a lot kind of sweet and a lot more smooth, if you like. But it depends where you go, obviously. You can go to some of the brauhouses and have the Pilsners that are brewed in very small batches, so you have to bear this in mind as well. But yeah, the malty side of things on this one I think is done pretty damn well. On the hoppy side of things, it's kind of what you'd expect. Like I say, German noble hops tend to be quite smooth, but at the same time quite bright. And you can smell that in here. So you've got a little bit of that kind of quite bright earthiness. There's a little touch of herbal character in there. Some nice bright and slightly oily floral characters coming out of this one. So yeah, a little bit of a brighter, oily character in there. but then you also have but then you also have just a little bit of that kind of more zesty, grassy character at the very front of the nose too. And that, yeah, for me, that does work very, very nicely. So on the, as I say, on the front of the nose, yeah, you've got that brighter, more zesty, grassy sort of thing. And then you have you have the kind of fruity character just sitting in behind that. So, the fruity character in this one's kind of what you'd expect as well. It just has a little bit of, it's quite straightforward. I mean, you get a little bit of this kind of fresh green apple, slightly oily, peary note out of it, but it does have a wee bit of a more kind of lemony, limey, zesty character within it. But yeah, I would say a little touch of sultana, you know, dry white green grapes, a little bit of a kind of oily pear, some fresh green apple, but then just a wee bit of a lemony, limey character. But yeah, this does look very, very nice, or it does come across very, very nicely. So yeah, I like that. I do like how that goes together, for sure. So, aroma-wise, it gives you, when they say in a North German style Pilsner, I'm not sure about the exact difference between a North German Pilsner and a South German Pilsner or whatever. I'm not that madly well versed in the different varieties of Pilsner, but for me it definitely comes across as being more German. The less spicy floral character that you get from this one compared to the Czech ones, and the slightly kind of drier, crisper type note, I think is very nice. We'll just put a wee bit more into this one to get a bit more head on it before we taste it. But as I always say, take a wee bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But let's taste this one. This is the Shelta Lager, a 5% Northern German style Pilsner from Dugges Bryggeri in Landvetter in Gothenburg, brewed in collaboration with the Shelta Sporting Goods Store for their 2022 Spotlight release. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers. Yeah, that is pretty nice. I never actually even thought I should have used my Pilsner Urquell glass to review this one. It's just kind of sitting over there. I don't know why that just never came into my mind to use that to review this beer, because it would have worked pretty well actually. But yeah, I'm going to say straight away, this is a really, really nice example of a German Pils, and it shows you what Dugges can do. Like I say, these guys are very, very well rounded, in fact, and yeah, my opinion about Dugges would be that they need to explore the lagers a wee bit more. That probably really is the one thing they haven't covered, if you like. Although I have never tried a Scotch ale from them, I would say that. And then probably you've got, you know, the alt beers and the Kulshies and stuff like this. It would be cool to see Dugges do a little bit more of the Belgian and the sort of Belgian and German traditional styles, or Belgian and Central European type styles. So maybe they'll do that going forward, who knows. But yeah, this is a very, very good Pilsner beer, and it gets a thumbs up from me. It's only rated 3.4 on Untappd, and this is one of the things that I have to say about Untappd, to be honest. And I've heard quite a few people saying this. Untappd is not good for rating lagers and things. It's too IPA and Imperial Stout forward. It's also, you know, the thing with Untappd is when you have to take it with a bit of pinch of salt, because it's also very American centric too. So that's one of the other things. But this is good. It gives you everything you would want from the Pilsner beer style. You've got a nice little bit you've got a little bit of sweet oiliness from it. You've got a bit of dryness. You've got the nice big hoppy character, a little bit of oily fruitiness, and a wee bit of kind of nice biscuity thing going on. But let's break it down and describe the whole thing for you a wee bit more in depth. But this is going to go down very, very easily, I have to say. Yeah. So, middle third of your palate then. The backbone of this beer, you get that lovely, fresh, white bready bread crust with this one. Goes together really nicely, that fresh, white bready bread crust is the backbone of the beer. Further forward on that front third of your palate, you get a little bit more of a kind of woody note on this one. You get a little bit of a kind of Jacob's cream crackery type quality on top of it. That is the backbone of the beer. You can feel that nice kind of bread crusty dryness, the cracker, and a little bit of woodiness. So yeah, it does go together quite well. So yeah, that way the base of this beer is quite nice, and you get more and more dryness out of this one the further into the aftertaste that you go. And for me, that's one of the that is the kind of defining characteristic of a German Pilsner. It's the dryness that the beer gives you, to be honest. So yeah, above the crackery layer though, you get that layer, that slight layer of kind of wholemeal brown bready character coming out of this one. So you can feel that, and then above that you get a slightly more taller and airy layer of a fluffy white bread. So yeah, that goes together quite nicely. So for me, the bready notes in this one are really, really nice in that sense. And this one, it has got a little bit more breadiness to it in a sense, but the bready character has a lot of dryness, so the kind of Pilsner malt just sits on top, mainly toward the back. It just sits on top of that white bready character. But yeah, the breadiness you get with this beer is really nice. But yeah, above the kind of fluffy white bready layer, you can feel there's just that layer of dryness, that layer of crisp, sort of dry, almost spiciness you could call it, from the Pilsner malt. But then in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel there's that little circle there where you get that wee bit of kind of straight up caramel, and there's a touch of McVitie's digestive biscuit coming out of the beer too. So yeah, nice little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit coming out of this one. So you'll feel the more concentrated biscuit in the dead centre of your palate where the alcohol is. Then as you move further out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, you get the more biscuity notes. But further back on the further back on that middle third, further back on that kind of middle third of your palate, that's where you start to get the dryness of the Pilsner malt. So let's look at that back third of the palate then. So the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there, really quite dry, because this is where the Pilsner malt kind of concentrates. And as I've said in many reviews before, one of the things about your palate you'll notice is that more dry and bitter flavours come out further back on the palate, the sweeter flavours come out further forward. So yeah, you can feel that nice kind of bready build up in there. You can feel that nice bready build up on the in the kind of border region. That's what I was looking for. But then the back third of your palate, you've got similar layers, that they just come out in different intensities. So you've got the nice kind of bread crusty base, which is a little bit drier, of course. You've got the cracker in there too, which is of course a little bit drier again. You've got the you do have the kind of, you've got a slightly more light and airy wholemeal brown bready character coming out of this one, and then you've got the fluffy white bread on top of that, which again is lighter and more airy, but you do get a wee bit of sweetness out of them. But then above all of that, you get a more you do get a bit more of that kind of Pilsner malty dryness coming out of the beer. So yeah, that goes together very, very well. Yeah, that is good, this one. Yeah, on top of the kind of you do get that real dry, spicy character from the Pilsner malt, I have to say. But above everything else, you've got the nice kind of yeasty character coming out of this one. And so the yeasty notes you get out of the beer, they're very light. They're very these notes, it's like a very kind of grainy, woody, farmhousey bread. You've got a good little bit of spiciness in there actually, and then you can feel there's a little bit of an almost kind of honeycomb just wrapped around it. I always get honeycomb in the back third of the palate for some reason. This one isn't one of the sweeter honeycombs on the back third of the palate, but it does go together really nicely. But definitely, back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, I like how that goes together for sure. It gets a thumbs up from me. On the hoppy side of things, so the hoppy side of this beer, I reckon this beer is using one of the slightly higher alpha acid German hops, because it does, when you drink this one, it does have that little bit more bitterness. But at the back corners of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, you've got a wee bit of that herbal character, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, you've got a more floral aromatic sort of thing coming out of this one. So yeah, the way that that goes together is pretty nice actually. So yeah, a little bit of a floral aromatic sort of thing in there, but then round the front curve of the palate, you've got a wee bit of a more kind of zesty and oily, grassy character with this one. But you do get a little bit of spice from that floral aromatic side of things. So I do reckon it's maybe Pearl or Hercules or something that's been used in this one. I don't think this is just the regular, you know, Hallertau Hersbrucker or you know, the Tettnanger or something like this. I think this is one of the slightly higher alpha acid hops that have been used in here. It doesn't strike me as Sapphire either, because Sapphire would give you that little touch of orange, but you don't get so much of that in here. Be very curious to know what hop has been used actually. But yeah, let's have a wee look. I think that covers the green component of this one, and it is as you would expect from this style. Let's look at that front third of your palate then. But border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there as well, and it's kind of, it's like a sort of slightly drier white bready character, which I do like. So yeah, the way that that goes together is really very nice, and it's slightly sweeter white bready character. The base of that front third of your palate, you've still got the bread crust, you've got a bit of brown bread, a bit of white bread, and then the nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just kind of roll their way out of the beer. So for me, the fruity side of things is kind of what you'd expect. At the back of that front third of your palate, you get a little bit more of a, you can feel there's a little bit of a kind of sultana, white green grapey note in this one. As you move further forward, it's got a little bit of an oily pear actually as well, and then as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, you have a little bit more of you do have a little bit more of that kind of, it's like a fresh green apple on top, but then you've got a more oily lime with a slightly lemon pungency to it as well. So yeah, oily lemon, lime, little bit of fresh green apple, but then yeah, further back a bit of pear and sultana type quality coming out of this beer. So interesting stuff. But yeah, in terms of the Pilsner style, I think this is pretty damn authentic, and Dugges have done a very good job of this. I would love to see them do, you know, some Dunkels and Doppelbocks and Vienna lagers and stuff like this. Yeah, doing some of the traditional Belgian things I think would be a very interesting project for Dugges as well. Honestly, we've reviewed so many Dugges beers over the years, I genuinely forget what we've had, but obviously a lot of them have been IPAs, a lot of them have been the Imperial Stouts. It would be cool to see Dugges have a go at some of these more traditional Central European lagers, and you know, obviously the Alt beers and Kolsch styles and stuff like this too. I think they have done them at points, but this is I think the Pilsner that we tried on the channel a few years ago, this is a lot better. It's a lot higher quality, this one. It's a lot more authentic than the Pilsner I remember trying in the 330 bottle from them years ago. I'm sure we had a Schwarzbier at some stage as well, actually. I would need to check that. But still, very, very good beer, this one. Ignore the Untappd rating with this. This is very authentic. So if you like Pilsner lagers, you will enjoy this one. Yeah, in terms of the Mouthfeel then to round off with this beer. This is definitely is in the light body section, which is what you want from the Pilsner. It's got a nice crisp carbonation, good little bit of dryness to it, especially in the aftertaste. In terms of the IBUs, I think this has got to be 30 or 40 IBUs. It's up there. It's kind of got the Pilsner Urquell level bitterness, which you want. So, a little bit of Pilsner Urquell, level bitterness in there, 30 or 40 IBUs. The malt base, like we said, has a bit of dryness, and you do get more dryness out of this beer the further into the aftertaste that you go. Lovely little bit of smoothness and sweetness in the middle, wee bit of sweetness on top, and then of course you've got the more oily, fruity characters coming out of this one as well. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really, really nice, and it gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. A lovely, kind of nice, dry, authentic German-style Pilsner beer, this one. Dugges have done a really good job of this, so hopefully more traditional German-style lagers to come from these guys as time goes on. But yeah, this was the Shelta Lager, a 5% Northern German-style Pilsner, apparently. The 2022 Spotlight series release in collaboration with the Shelta Sporting Goods store in Gothenburg. A really nice beer, this one. Cool to see Dugges do a style that I've not had too many examples of from them as well. Yeah, I'm very happy with this. I think that's a good place to round off. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Dugges Bryggeri as well. And we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the near future. Until then, slàinte, skål, cheers. Check out my social media, check out theirs, and I'll catch you guys in another review. Ciao just now.